The next step is build social proof. In marketing and branding, there's a term called social proof. Social proof means that people vouch for you. You have credibility, right? So with me, since I was trying to move from being an amateur to being a professional and semi-professional, and I had to go out there and build some particular type of credibility. And I did that by leveraging social proof. Right? So social proof is basically the notion that if somebody is out there on the street and has to decide between going to one restaurant or the other restaurant, are you going to go to the restaurant that has nobody in, that's empty, that only has one or two people in it? Or are you going to go to the restaurant that's busy and flowing with people? It has lines, right? Because one restaurant is in demand. So the idea is that it's in demand for a particular reason, right? That's social proof. Right? One other principle of social proof is if you go on sites like Amazon or Yelp, right, books with lots and lots of reviews, they're more credible. It gives that perception of credibility, right? It's not always the case, but in terms of when it comes to marketing, one of the things you have to learn is sometimes perception is reality, right? So with me, I had to build a portfolio that I could kind of share with potential clients and say, hey, these are the big names and big brands I've worked with. Now, since I wasn't that great, I was starting out, I was still an amateur. One of the great hacks of building social proof is to work for free, right? People underestimate this concept. So with me, I was going out there and doing an event once a week, right? So I mentioned I was filming an event once a week, but it came to a point where I'll find the big events or the big companies and just email them saying, hey, my name is Ian Belina. I'm the founder of Fusion Video Production, and I would like to come to your event and have access to film and give you guys the video for free to share on your website or on your social media platforms, right? And it's not going to work for everybody, but it was working pretty well. To a point, I got access to some big names, right? So I think the first thing I did was I first went to DC Fashion Week, and just by being having a video production company, I got access to filming behind the scenes. So I ended up filming different types of video, which they're able to share on their social media sites. So I kind of built my credibility in that space. Then I ended up filming Nancy Pelosi, a congressperson in DC. She had a talk in DC, ended up going there. It was a free talk, but now like I can say I've worked with Nancy Pelosi, right? She was a former minority leader in the House, right? Then from kind of partnering with the DC pageant community, I was able to just basically volunteer to film their events for free, right? The different pageants. So I filmed the Washington Miss DC pageant, the Miss Maryland pageant, the Miss Virginia pageant. All this was pretty much for free or for very low rates eventually down the line, but initially it was free, right? And it came to a point where I became the official videographer for Miss DC. Now that was vital because it gave me access to all the events she was attending. So all the events they would attend, they would invite me to come and film for them. And this was all free. I would basically edit the video, do all the work, then they'll take the video and promote that on their social media channels. Then it came to a point where I was working with Miss DC, and she had an event for the Washington Redskins. It was for Pierre Garcon. Pierre Garcon's Boys and Girls Club fundraiser for his charity, and all the Washington Redskins players were there. RG3 was there, Kirk Cousins was there, even NBA players, John Wall was there, a bunch of different local DC professional athletes were there. So by partnering with her, it gave me access to these events. So I got interviews with John Wall, NBA All-Star. I got interviews with Kirk Cousins before he blew up. I got pictures and video about RG3 when it was still kind of almost starting, right? So I was able to put all this content into my portfolio. Like Nancy Pelosi, Miss DC. I also ended up doing free work for Yelp, because they had a party where all the top Yelpers in the local DC region would go, people who live very good, high quality reviews. So I was able to get all these different big names and brands into my portfolio, and it was all free work. Right? But I was building that foundation that eventually would let me charge very high rates.